Okay, so when we began this task and we had all of these interesting speakers on the day, we learnt that the current model and system of residential aged care is obviously flawed and some might say broken. So rather than try and fix this very, very complicated broken system, we decided to just pitch to a new community development instead. So looking at housing and in the context of aged care as architects, we obviously looked at home, and in the sort of system we're looking at, that meant shelter, sustenance and care. However, we decided to look at it as a values-based home. So that means sharing, meeting, a sense of ownership, a sense of choice, mutual care, amenities, common goals, and most importantly, a diverse and supportive community. So when thinking of Pendle Hill, we think our community would look something like this. So people will be connected by relations, by jobs, and by reasons for being there. So some might choose to be there for an active lifestyle, some might choose to be there because they need a bit of added care. Some might be there because it's close to their work as a nurse or a police officer or any sort of government worker, or some might be there because they're students and they need some affordable housing. So this community will be supportive of each other and provide a lot of these values, such as mutual care and meeting and sharing meals. Our architecture will be a catalyst for the rest of those values, such as a sense of ownership, choice and access to amenities.
But what does that mean on the site? Pendle Hill, as we've heard, has got great qualities, great position, has heritage, open spaces, redevelopment opportunities next door, close to shops and stations, close walk to the railway station. It's a terrific opportunity. The challenge though is that the planning allows us to do tall buildings, 10 stories. So in grappling with the idea of home, and we referred to urban philosopher Kate Miller-Heidke to guide us about apartments and home, and on the far left is the 1 and 2 stories, which is the hearts, and we associate that with home. It's partly about scale and human scale. So our challenge for ourselves in this design project is to say, well, if we had to do taller buildings, how can they actually feel like home and also look like home? So that's our challenge. The idea of integration, which others have spoken about, we support absolutely, and Genevieve has said as well. The site is beyond the boundaries of the site, it connects to the surrounding area. Street networks connect to existing streets and to new development opportunities. Streets are angled for vistas to heritage buildings. Activities are located within parks. We can accommodate a range of housing. The other challenge we have though is that we think that the feeling like home and the scale of home is useful. So the 8-module room we think is a typology that can be used and be interchanged with all sorts of different accommodations, from more dedicated residential aged care to assisted living to apartments, and aggregate or collect buildings of this scale across the site. So they might be organised like this, integrated with heritage buildings. Buildings have courtyards next to them which are secure and private, good access to open space, good opportunities for cross-ventilation. Oops, wrong way. And so, how does this work? And the left-hand drawing looks provocative. When I spoke to Genevieve the other day about all this, is on last week we had the big buildings and said, well, can we salt and pepper within inside the building? To what extent is there flexibility? To what extent do you need dedicated living? And if you have 10 stories, obviously the ground floor is more accessible and ground floor common areas are possible. But maybe on smaller scale buildings, some dedicated residential aged care for those people with those particular needs is useful. 10 seconds. So what does it look like? There you go. I won't ask if you like that. But so we think that the architecture of feeling and looking like home is useful.